With less than 10 days until the start of the season, I thought we'd have a bit of fun and take a look at each team's best and worst case scenario for the year ahead. Now obviously every team is aiming to win the premiership, and that would be the most ideal scenario. And alternatively, every side is attempting to avoid the worst case scenario of winning the wooden spoon. But that's not the reality for most sides. So let's make this thing as realistic as possible. Let's start with the worst case scenarios. All the experts are expecting the Crows to make a leap up the ladder this year. But in our worst case scenario, Adelaide finished bottom 4 for a second consecutive year. Players become discontented, and after another rollercoaster year, young gun Josh Rachele asked for a trade. After 6 years at the helm and no finals appearances, Matthew Nicks is relieved of his duties. Their back-to-back campaign is a disaster, as the Lions become the 5th team in 9 years to miss the finals after winning the flag. Coach Chris Fagan announces that he will take up a management position at the Tassie Devils, and the best lockdown defender in the comp in Brandon Starcevic leaves in free agency. After 4 unsuccessful years, the Blues part way with head coach Michael Voss as Carlton miss the finals and crash into the bottom 6. Free agent Tom De Koning exercises his right to sign with a rival Victorian club. For a second consecutive year, the Pies miss the finals. Rumblings in the media begin to swirl about Craig McRae as he is linked with the Carlton coaching vacancy. The push to go all in has failed miserably, and Norm Smith medalist Bobby Hill seeks a trade back to Western Australia. The Dons' 2025 season is a disaster, as they finish in the bottom 3, below either North or West Coast. It's been only 3 seasons, but the Dons' hierarchy has again grown impatient with the progress of the team, and coach Brad Scott is fired. Sam Draper leaves in free agency, looking to head home to South Australia. Another season without September action sees the Dockers act and end the tenure of Justin Longmuir after 6 seasons in charge. A year that started full of hype and expectation goes further south when Andrew Brayshaw leaves for Victoria in free agency. The Cats stun the footy world by missing the finals for the second time in 3 years. Seeking a fresh start, Chris Scott announces that he will be stepping down from the Cats and having a year out of the game before taking up the role of the Tasmanian Devils' inaugural head coach. Young Premiership defender Sam De Koning requests a trade. After being in the 8 all season, the Suns drop their final 3 games and miss the finals on percentage. Coach Damien Hardwick is safe, but pressure is starting to mount as out-of-contract star Matt Rowell requests a trade. Adam Kingsley's ruthless style of coaching falls flat as cracks start to emerge when the Giants miss the finals. Management urge Kingsley to soften his hardened approach as young gun Aaron Cadman requests a trade back to Victoria, citing homesickness. The AFL universe is shocked as Hockball fails to live up to the hype of the previous year and they miss finals. Coach Sam Mitchell is as safe as houses, but seeking a career-changing payday, ruckman Lloyd Meek asks for a trade and James Worpel decides to test the free agency market. The best culture in the history of football comes to an end as the D's part ways with Premiership coach Simon Goodwin after a bottom 4 finish. Christian Petrarca officially wants out, as does Cozzy Pickett, who wants to return to WA for personal reasons. The Kangas and Alistair Clarkson have a decision to make, as the Roos slump yet again and finish the season on the bottom of the ladder. To rub salt into the wound, Luke Davies-Uniacke departs via free agency, leaving the Roos in absolute turmoil. The succession plan goes awry, as the Power have the season from hell. Not only do Port miss the finals, Josh Carr and Ken Hinkley are involved in some public displays of disagreement, which forces management to end Hinkley's involvement earlier than planned. Amidst the chaos, pre-agent Zach Butters announces that he won't be signing with the Power next year and seeks a trade back to Victoria a year early. The Tigers have the first winless season since Fitzroy in the 1960s. Coach Adam Uze is moved on and further premiership players in Tom Lynch and Dion Prestia depart the club. The Saints finish bottom 4, and questions are asked as to whether Ross Lyon still has what it takes in the modern game. He has one more year left to show improvement. The Saints' best young player in Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera is out of contract and seeks a trade home to South Australia. The Swans' psychological scars are laid bare as they completely capitulate and miss finals altogether. Dean Cox is safe as a first-year coach, but things get compounded when Chad Warner asks for a trade back to Western Australia. The Eagles surprisingly regress and finish below both North and Richmond, claiming the wooden spoon. Andrew McWalter rides the bumps with dignity, but looks to be in over his head. Oscar Allen has another interrupted campaign and seeks a fresh start in free agency. And in the biggest shock of all, Harley Reid requests a trade home to Victoria for personal reasons. The Dogs lose at home in round 24 and narrowly miss the finals. The club chooses not to renew the contract of Luke Beveridge, and as a result, skipper Marcus Bontempelli exercises his free agency rights and signs with a big Melbourne club. Unable to put his personal issues aside, Jamarra Ugle-Hagan also seeks out a fresh start. Carnage at the Dogs. Alright, now let's get that negativity out of the way and focus on the best case scenarios for each team. In this alternate reality, not only are the Crows ecstatic to make finals, Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera is also asked to be traded to them. Thilthorpe and Fogarty form the best key forward duo in the game, and Isaac Rankin becomes an All-Australian. All is happy at West Lakes. The Lions go back-to-back and eye off another three-peat. Seeking to get out of the fishbowl of Melbourne, Jamarra Ugle-Hagan takes up the vacant spot left by Joe Danaher as the Lions' main target up forward. Levi Ashcroft wins the Rising Star, and Will Ashcroft wins back-to-back Norm Smiths. The Blues defy the odds and make the grand final. Tom De Koning re-signs. Michael Voss is extended, and in a move that sees them rocket into premiership favouritism, Marcus Bontempelli signs with the Blue Baggers in free agency, joining Paddy Cripps to form the most devastating 1-2 punch the game has seen. Putting all of their eggs in the premiership basket pays off, as the Pies make it back to their second grand final in 3 years. In another coup, the rich get richer as Christian Petrarca nominates Collingwood as his club of choice. Bobby Hill also extends his contract, and Dan Houston makes the All-Australian team. The streak is over. The Bombers not only qualify for finals, but manage to cause an upset and win a final. Nate Caddy and Isaac Kako finish 1-2 in the Rising Star, and as if that wasn't enough to keep Dons fans happy over the off-season, Harley Reid requests a trade back to Victoria and wants to make a new home at Windy Hill. Sam Draper spurns free agency to stay with the Bombers. The Dockers live up to the hype and barnstorm their way into a grand final. Justin Longmuir is given a well-earned coaching extension, and to top it off, Bobby Hill wants to add to the plethora of small forwards. Andrew Brayshaw re-signs, and Shea Bolton becomes the match winner they envisioned. The Cats manage to draw both the admiration and the ire of the footy world as they march to another premiership under Chris Scott. Bailey Smith stars in the final series. Matt Rowell then signals his intentions to join the lads at Sleepy Hollow, and also manages to secure an unrelated deal with Cotton On and Morris Finance. The Suns hierarchy is ecstatic as they finally reach September for the first time in their history. Matt Rowell has a blinding year and re-signs long-term, and to top it off, Sam De Koning requests a trade up north to join this young and exciting group. The Giants thrive under Adam Kingsley's take-no-prisoners approach and smash their way into a grand final. Jake Stringer kicks 50 goals, and as if they weren't already loaded enough, they top things off by signing Brandon Starcevich in free agency. The Hawks continue on their merry way and take all before them yet again. Sam Mitchell leads his Chargers into the grand final. Meek and Warple re-sign, and Oscar Allen signs in free agency, giving them an even more lethal forward line. The D's put an end to the culture narrative as they blitz their way into a prelim. Clary and Petrarca return to All-Australian form. Cozzy Pickett finds a way to shake off his homesickness, and young key forward Aaron Cadman requests a trade to lead their forward line into the future. Spurred on by the Kangas' development and rise out of the bottom four, LDU signs a long-term extension, tying him to the club for the remainder of his career. In a promising sign of things to come, the Roos finally land a big fish in free agency, convincing Tom De Koning to be their centre-half forward of the future. The succession plan goes seamlessly, as Ken finally makes his way into a grand final. Josh Carr's influence convinces Zach Butters to sign on long-term, and Sam Draper inks a contract to become their number one ruckman. In a surprising turn of events, the Tigers somehow avoid the wooden spoon and win more games than expected. Not only do their veterans stick around, but they manage to fast-track their rebuild by signing gun midfield free agents in Andrew Brayshaw and James Worpel to lucrative deals. The Saints return to September action under Ross the Boss, as everything goes to plan. Max King fires, and Jack McRae proves to be the recruit of the year. In a sign of how far they have come, Luke Davies-Uniacke signs the richest deal in AFL history to become their number one man in the midfield. The Swans are rejuvenated under Dean Cox and pull all the right levers to deliver their fans a premiership. Chad Warner has another monster year and recommits to the club. And Jamarra Ugle-Hagan follows in the footsteps of his hero in Buddy Franklin and signs a 10-year deal to be the face of the Swannies franchise for the next decade. The Eagles are buoyed by the energy and enthusiasm of new coach Andrew McWalter and avoid the bottom four. Their veterans manage to stay on the park, and the glimmer of hope is enough to convince both Chad Warner and Cozzy Pickett to sign on. In even bigger news, Harley Reid commits long-term. The Dogs finish top four for the first time under Luke Beveridge and make a third grand final in 10 years. Bevo signs an extension, as does the Bont, who commits for the rest of his career. Jamarra gets reintegrated and reinvigorated and begins to reach his potential. Local product Zach Butters requests a trade to the Dogs to become Bont's number one sidekick. And there you have it, folks. Dream time is over. Let me know in the comments below what your best and worst case scenario would be for your team. And if you haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.